Hi Genevieve.
Hi, Hannah.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good.
Good.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, it's nice to see you.
Thanks.
Cool. So I'm just gonna kind of do a quick check-in and then maybe set the agenda for today.
Okay.
But before we kind of get started, how are things going for you?
Pretty good. I would say I haven't felt claustrophobic too much in the past week, but there haven't been many situations that have come up where I'm feeling that way. So it's just, I think, kind of been where I am. You know?
Okay, cool. Yeah. And so maybe I want to do like a check-in for how your week's been, maybe get an update. But first I just kind of want to check in about your mood.
Okay.
To see how like how you've been feeling mood-wise, maybe your sleep, because you'd kind of mentioned that in the past.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, my sleep has been kind of the same, I think. So I'm still, I usually wake up in the middle of the night or earlier in the morning, I guess, around 4. And then I just have a hard time falling back asleep. But that hasn't gotten worse. It's just been better. And I think my mood generally has been pretty good this week.
Okay. And what does pretty good look like?
In terms of what I'm doing, or?
Yeah, like pretty good. Does that mean happy,
Yeah.
ecstatic?
Yeah, I think it would be, I don't think that I had a low mood over the past week. I was pretty happy and pretty active and busy and stuff, so.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks for sharing. And before you kind of mentioned that sometimes your appetite fluctuates a little bit, so I was also wanting to check in about that just before we get started.
My appetite's been good in the past week. I think I've been busy, so it hasn't been too much. It hasn't been on my mind too much, I guess.
Okay, cool. So thanks so much. So I'll kind of go over our agenda quickly for today, and then I want to get an update about what's been going on for you over the last week.
Okay.
So today I'm hoping to kind of look at the last week, get an idea of how things have been going. I want to check in about your homework that we discussed last week and see what worked for you, what didn't, and that can kind of help us prioritize things for how we move forward. I want to talk about the problem of claustrophobia in more detail and just kind of get some more information about that. And then I was thinking, depending how you're feeling, we can kind of look at what area of the claustrophobia you want to talk about more specifically. Like, is it the physical? Is it the mental? Those kinds of things. So, and then after all of that, we can kind of narrow it down and look at what skills might be helpful for you based on some of the information that we've looked at. So I really want you to kind of be totally involved in this process, speak up as you need to. Like if you feel like something's not working for you, I want to know. Okay? And as you'll remember, I kind of jot down notes as we go, and that's just so I don't forget anything. Okay? So can you please tell me a little bit about what's been going on for you over the last week?
Yeah, I guess something that was a little bit different or more difficult over the past week, I kind of forgot about it when you asked me earlier. I went to the movies, and partway through the movie, I just started feeling kind of sweaty and just kind of anxious, I guess, and just really claustrophobic in the movie theater. And there's of course no windows in a movie theater, and it's quite dark, and so I got up and left partway through the movie just to get some air and be outside. And I was just kind of starting to feel almost not like I was suffocating, but the room felt just kind of like it was suffocating in there. So that happened.
That sounds like a really scary experience for you.
Yeah, I've never, I know I've been kind of dealing with the claustrophobia a little bit, but that was definitely the first time I had to leave during the movies. Usually I can make it through that.
Yeah. So you've never left before?
No. Usually I'm I guess engaged enough in the movie, and I'm not really thinking about whether or not there's windows or if I could get out or those kinds of things.
And And so that's something I kind of want to look at a little bit more with you is what you are thinking in those instances.
Okay.
So that's something maybe we can return to
Yeah.
a little bit later when we're looking kind of a bit more at what some of your thoughts are
Okay.
around these fears. So does that sound like something that you would want to put on your agenda for the week?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely was scary. That's just never happened before, and it just feels like it's kind of getting worse.
Mm-hmm. So as we talk a little bit more, we can kind of narrow things down. But for now, I'm going to put down that we want to maybe look at this movie incident a little bit more. Yeah. Okay. Is there anything else that happened over the last week that you'd want me to know about?
Well, I guess it sort of fits in with the movie thing. But my boyfriend and I are planning a camping trip, and it's not until the end of the summer, so still a few months away. But he really, really wants to go to this public tourist attraction, and it's a cave.
Okay.
And so I'd really like to be able to make it through that and enjoy that with him because he's really excited about it. But just thinking about it today, I feel like I just wouldn't be able to even go in at all. So, and then there's kind of the camping part of it, and like the being in a tent in the dark with no light also just feels like a lot.
Right. Okay. Great. So thank you so much for kind of elaborating on that. I think we'll kind of just take a little break for now on some of the details about that. But again, that's sounding like something that's kind of it's a pretty big situation that's on your mind, and it's probably something you also want to look at. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to put camping and the cave also on the agenda. Sometimes it's a little bit hard because we have such limited time together. We can't always get through everything. So why don't we just look at the homework, talk a little bit about that, and then we can kind of see which items you think are the most important to get through today.
Okay.
Yeah. So how last week we kind of talked about starting to notice some of your automatic thoughts, and so I just wanted to know if you were able to kind of jot down any of those, on the thought record, if you'd had anything that was helpful or anything that kind of stood out for you.
Well, I know I kind of had a hard time making a difference between thoughts and feelings. So I was trying to do it for the movie incident, but that was a little bit challenging to figure it out, and also because I was so anxious, I had a hard time on that day figuring it out.
So what was it about the incident and then trying to do kind of the reflective process after? What was challenging about that?
Well, I didn't really want to think about it.
Okay.
And I could feel myself becoming anxious thinking about it.
Right.
And so it was, I think, it was just hard to figure out what my thoughts were. Like I knew how I felt, but.
Okay. I think I understand what you're saying. So basically, when you tried to do the process of the thought record, it was bringing up a lot of the anxiety that you experienced from being in the movie theater.
Yeah.
And so that was uncomfortable for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so at that point, you kind of decided, like, I don't think I want to do this anymore.
Yeah. And
okay.
I just couldn't figure out really what was going through my mind, I guess. I know we talked about that last time. But yeah.
Right. And I think that having kind of a nervous response or kind of maybe a physiological response as you think back about that incident is quite common for anxiety, because often we don't even have to be in the situation to start to experience anxiety, right? We can literally just be thinking about it and start to feel our heart rate increase and that kind of thing. Yeah. So I think that's something we can look at a little bit more when we start to look at our homework skills for this week, because I did want to introduce one of these CBT skills that I think will be really helpful, and it kind of ties in with what we're talking about right now with challenges with the homework, and that's just reminding ourselves that while anxiety can feel like things might come to the end, it's, it can be a really awful and scary feeling, just that reminder that it is temporary and we will get through. And so I think when you're trying to do homework or those kinds of situations where it's starting to bring that up, it's that self-talk and being aware of those thoughts and stuff. Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah, so we're all about acronyms in CBT, and I have a nice little acronym I'm going to give you a little bit later.
Okay.
So we'll return to that if that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so thanks for sharing all of this.
Mm-hmm.
You've given me lots of helpful information.
Okay.
I'm just wondering, now we kind of go back to the agenda setting with the movie incident and the camping.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think is the most kind of important thing for you to address today?
I think the movie incident, and mostly because I just had a really hard time doing the thought record on that one.
Okay.
So I think it would be good to look at that.
For sure. Okay. And then, I mean, if we have some time to look at the camping, then maybe we'll get to that as well.
Okay.
And just to kind of have a peek at the time here, I think we're about 10 minutes in or so. So we should have some time. And that's great. So if we're kind of thinking about the movie incident, and before we move forward, does this all sound good for you? Do you think that we're missing anything? Or
No, I think that sounds good.
Okay, cool. So I want to hear a little bit more about some of the major thoughts that you were having when you were in the movie theater. In other words, I just kind of want to understand a little bit more what you were thinking about while you were sitting in that chair.
Yeah, I guess if I go back to the chair, that makes it a little bit easier. I was like partway through the movie, and I just kind of realized, like I said, that I was sweating, and my heart was racing a little bit more, and so I started looking around, and I noticed that there weren't any windows, so I was thinking about that.
Okay. And when you noticed there weren't any windows, sorry to interrupt you.
That's okay.
What was going through your mind right at that time?
Well, I don't like it when there's no windows, so I was just thinking, there's no windows to look outside. It just feels like there's no air.
Okay.
I was in the middle of a row, so I guess I was thinking about, like, if I had to get out or if something happened in the movie theater. I don't know if I'd be able to get out.
Right.
And as I'm saying this, I realize it's not often that things happen in movie theaters, I guess. But yeah, so I was just thinking about being able to get out if something happened.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And I think so basically you were sitting in the chair, and as you kind of became more aware of your surroundings, that's kind of how things started to escalate a little bit. You noticed there weren't any windows, and you felt kind of stuck in the middle of the row.
Yeah, I felt trapped.
You felt trapped, yeah.
Yeah.
And so from there, you said it's not often things happen in movie theaters, and sometimes it can be. I mean, and you know what? Like, sometimes our fears don't seem totally rational after the fact,
right.
But when we're experiencing them, they can be very real for us. So it can be really helpful to kind of write these reminders down for ourselves.
Right.
If this comes up again, what is a reminder I can give myself that things are going to be okay?
Okay.
So I just want to get you to write down, and I meant to bring another pen, but I only have one here, so if you're okay with just using mine.
Yeah.
Your exact words were, it's not often that things happen in movie theaters. So I think a helpful way to kind of phrase that would be, if I start to feel scared, or if I start to worry, something like that, it's not often that things happen in movie theaters.
If I become anxious.
Sure. Yeah, that's great. Awesome. Okay. So what we've just done here is called a balanced response.
Okay.
So when we have those kinds of thoughts that are, we talked a little bit about like thought distortions, those kind of catastrophic thoughts, right? This is a balanced response to maybe that initial automatic thought of I'm in danger.
Right.
Right?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So does that sound okay for you? Am I jumping ahead, or do you think we're...
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it'll be difficult in the moment to remember it, and I guess that's why I need to like practice it.
Yeah, and it is one of those things where it's like practice, right? And maybe you're not always in a situation where you can pull out your card and look at it, but if you kind of have it up at home or somewhere with you where you can kind of maybe a couple times a day just read it, it can kind of help ingrain that information a little bit more.
Okay.
So just to kind of go back to being in the theater, can you tell me a little bit about... I really liked that you were able to describe your surroundings. You said the windows, the feeling stuck in the chairs. You shared some information about like some of the physical symptoms that you were having.
Yeah.
Sweating, heart racing. Yeah. So I want to know just a little bit more kind of about what was going through your mind at that time.
Okay. Well, like I said, definitely just the thoughts about the windows, like there aren't windows, and that if something happens, I wouldn't be able to get out, and that there's just not enough like space, and just I think mainly the thoughts are around if something bad were to happen, that I wouldn't be able to get out.
Okay. Yeah.
And that I think I was thinking about that I was trapped in the room a little bit.
Okay. Are these thoughts that you've had before?
Yeah, when I've felt the claustrophobia before, but usually it's in like much smaller, more confined spaces that I haven't been in before.
Yeah.
So, being in a crawl space, for example, was when I noticed it a little while ago.
Yeah.
That was really difficult, but it's the first time that in a public space where I've attended movies before, where I've had to leave, and I just felt like I needed some air, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. And so, what do you think was different this time? If you typically when you feel that way, you're actually in a smaller space, whereas this time you were in a movie theater, which I'm kind of hearing you have been at movies before.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what was different about this time. I know I've been talking about the claustrophobia a little bit more, and so maybe I was just sort of, I guess, more aware of the spaces that I'm in, maybe.
Okay.
I mean, it was just a few weeks ago that I had been in that crawl space, so I think I was fearful of becoming that anxious again, and then
so those fears were kind of already there because this is something that we've been talking about a bit more, and then so it's more kind of on the forefront of your mind, whereas maybe in the past, if you haven't been in spaces where you do feel kind of confined, when it does happen, it's like not as common for you.
I think so. And I mean, just thinking back, I know that I hadn't gotten really a good night's sleep before. And so maybe that, I know when on nights that I don't get sleep, things are usually more challenging during the day for me. So I don't know if that had anything to do with it.
Okay. That might be something, and maybe that's something, again, that when we're kind of looking at kind of writing our cue cards or our reminders for ourselves, if I'm experiencing more anxiety, like how have I been sleeping?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, different, and maybe if we don't even write it down, but just some things to maybe think about, right?
Yeah.
So I'm wondering with kind of like the sweating and the heart racing and stuff, like what are some of, when you start to notice those physical sensations, like what are some of the things that start to go through your mind at that point?
I think at that point, I'm thinking about the heart racing and the sweaty palms, and so I'm thinking, I'm not feeling really great. I'm feeling, kind of like scared, I guess, and I need to get out of here, basically.
Okay, so feeling scared.
Yeah.
So that's like your mood is scared.
I think so.
And thinking I need to get out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's, really like the strongest, like the thing that I know how to do in that situation is to leave.
To leave.
So.
Okay. So, and that's how you've handled it in the past.
Yeah.
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 So what do you think about that? Like what is leaving kind of, what do you take away from leaving?
Well, I know in our past sessions we sort of talked about avoidance.
Yeah.
And so I've been thinking about that a little bit as it kind of relates to this situation. Mm-hmm. And I think it helps me in the moment.
Yeah.
But it probably doesn't help the claustrophobia.
Right. Because it hasn't addressed.
Yeah, because I guess I'm kind of giving myself the message that if I get out, things will be okay, but it's probably true that things will be okay if I stay in the theater as well.
Okay. Maybe that's something we can write. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that, I mean, it's true. It's, yeah.
So, like, what do you think, if you were to write something down, what's going to be meaningful to you?
I think maybe, like, specific to the movie theater, or...
Well, and you're going camping.
Yeah.
So, what if we kind of broaden it a little bit to if I feel in danger?
Yeah, if I feel scared, I guess. Mm-hmm. I need to remember that I'm not really in danger.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Or maybe I need to remember that leaving won't help me in the future.
Okay. And then we've kind of talked a little bit about how anxiety does pass, right?
Yeah.
So another kind of reminder, just that constant reminder to ourselves,
mm-hmm.
like, this is uncomfortable now and it's scary, but my anxiety will pass.
Okay, I'm going to start. So if I feel scared, I need to remember that the anxiety will go away.
Mm-hmm.
That I'm safe. What was the other?
And my anxiety will pass.
Yeah. Okay,
awesome. Thank you. And so this kind of seems like a useful time just to maybe introduce that acronym that I was mentioning earlier. So it's called AWARE.
Okay.
A, accept anxiety. This is what we've kind of been talking about, right? If I try and fight it, it kind of just builds. Is that what your experience has been like? Yeah,
well, I think the more that I don't, like, face it, and the more that I run away from it, I'm not really addressing anything.
Right.
So it's just, I think, getting worse.
Yeah. So running away doesn't actually help.
No, I guess not.
No. Temporarily, right?
Yeah.
But in the long run,
yeah,
that fear is still there.
Yeah.
And so with anxiety, when we accept it, it's going, like, it doesn't mean I love it. It just means that this is what's happening right now. And instead of fighting it, I'm going to accept it and try and work with it. Now, the W is for watch it. And that's that kind of, like, observant stance that we can take with a lot of things in our life sometimes, right? Like, what is going on for me right now? What am I experiencing? And just kind of, when we can put a name to the different things that are going on for us, sometimes that can be helpful.
Okay.
So you had mentioned being in the theater, my heart's racing, I'm feeling sweaty, right? So kind of starting to notice those symptoms and really putting a name to them.
Okay.
Does that sound like something you'd kind of be able
to
do?
I think so. Yeah.
A is act with the anxiety. So I think that means, like, just being with it, right? Again, as similar to accepting it, it's like acting with it. What can I do with the anxiety right now?
Okay.
Yeah. What do you think?
Not running away.
That's not running away, yeah. So maybe that's like, who were you at the movie theater with?
My friend.
Your friend? And so what do you think, if tables were turned and your friend was kind of going through that, what do you think you would have said to them?
Probably, it's going to be okay. We've been here before, and, maybe take some deep breaths. Mm-hmm. Just kind of try and relax a little bit.
Yeah. So that would be acting with the anxiety.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just kind of working with it a little.
I think so.
Yeah. Responding, right?
Yeah.
Responding to it. R is repeat these steps. So it's kind of getting into that cycle of just like accepting, observing, and responding.
Okay.
And then E is expecting the best.
Okay.
Which can be hard with anxiety, right?
Yeah.
Our initial tendency is to want to run.
Right.
We expect the worst.
Yeah.
It's that what if, that catastrophic thinking.
Mm-hmm.
But if we expect the best, that it's going to pass and we're going to be okay.
Yeah, that's probably going to be the hardest one.
Do you think so?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what is it, do you think, that makes that one seem like the hardest?
Well, it seems like my thoughts about, like, what if I can't get out of here, mm-hmm. or what if something happens and I'm trapped, are what make me kind of want to leave, and mm-hmm. that feels better.
Right.
So I guess, instead of thinking, I'm going to be fine, and, people don't die of claustrophobia from being inside a movie theater.
Right. I really like that you're kind of having this conversation with yourself, though,
yeah.
Right? And that's kind of what CBT is all about, and what we're trying to get you to be in a place to do, because what you're doing right now is you're saying your automatic thoughts.
Right.
What if this happens? I'm in danger, right?
Right.
But you're responding to those with a more balanced thought.
Yeah. I think it'll be more challenging
in the moment.
Yeah. But it makes sense.
Yeah. So looking at kind of like, you feel like it will be more challenging in the moment. I'm wondering, what do you think can help you in the moment to kind of be able to kind of draw on some of these skills, right? If we think mm-hmm. of everything we're talking about as like your CBT toolkit, something's scary for you, something's kind of bringing up some anxiety, like what is it going to take for you to kind of reach in that toolkit mm-hmm. and know that you can use those skills?
Well, I think like just practicing this is helpful, mm-hmm. because I really wasn't able to pull out the thoughts on my own. Mm-hmm. So I think noticing them right now is really helping me to understand what's happening for me in the moment. So I guess it's kind of hard to say, how it will be mm-hmm. the next time, but I think that, I need to, maybe whoever I'm with, just let them know that if I want to leave, that they can remind me of those things, or, or just having that conversation with myself, kind of, mm-hmm. About whether or not I'm in danger. Maybe cards that we've been writing.
Maybe, right? Especially in a movie theater, like it doesn't have to be really obvious. Yeah. It's something kind of subtle.
And I mean, of course, I could leave if I was in danger. Yeah. So.
And does that, knowing that, does that knowledge kind of help alleviate some of the anxiety as well?
I think it will. I've never thought mm-hmm. about it like that before, so usually I just leave. So, so I think it will help, hopefully, in the moment.
And like just the leaving thing, we call that like a safety behavior. Oh. Because you're feeling more safe by doing that, right? Yeah. But in the long run, it's really similar to avoidance. Like it hasn't actually addressed that fear. Right. So, yeah. But I really like that you're like pulling all of this together, and you're doing a lot of, I don't know, you're just like connecting a lot of the dots, which I think is really great.
Thanks. Well, I think the thought records have been really helpful mm-hmm. To understand that, because it seems like most of the time my thoughts are mostly balanced. Like we were talking about the balancing thought mm-hmm. a little bit, but I mean, nobody's nobody's dying of claustrophobia in movie theaters.
No.
So.
And that's like another thing you can remind yourself.
Yeah.
But I think in all of this, like we can sometimes lose that kind of compassion for ourselves. So validating, like if we're thinking about accepting the anxiety and acting with it and stuff, it's like really like acknowledging that this is a scary thing for yourself. It's there.
Yeah.
And appreciating that like that fear came from somewhere, and that you have like the power and the courage to kind of overcome it. But there's nothing wrong with you for feeling that way. And so having that kind of like the same sensitivity you would have to a friend who might be feeling that way for yourself.
Yeah, I think it's really helpful to think about what I would say to a friend. Like that question really made me think about the situation differently. So I think I would ask myself, like I might put that on my cue card.
Yeah. Is that something you want to add, do you think?
I guess so. Yeah. What would I say to a friend?
Yeah, definitely. Great. Yeah. So I just want to do kind of a quick summary of some of the stuff that we've talked about so far. We kind of looked into the movie incident more closely, and I think that we've done some really, I think you've done some really great kind of made some really great connections between your thoughts and your physical sensations, the behaviors of wanting to leave. You've really started to like pull all of that together. You talked about some of your automatic thoughts in these instances, those being like I'm in danger, and then you've provided some balanced thinking of I've seen movies before and it worked out okay. Right. And so I think that just really starting to kind of to pull together the premise of CBT in your thinking, which I think is great.
Cool.
Yeah. So we always kind of end with setting some homework together. Before we do that, I thought if there's like another kind of physiological arousal kind of decrease way that we can respond to those symptoms that I think might be of use to you. Are you okay with hearing about it?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think that'd be good.
Okay, so we had talked about deep breathing before, right? And that's like a really simple one that you can always use, which is like you always have your breath, right? Yeah. This one's called progressive muscle relaxation. Okay. So what it really involves is and this is something you could do in the theater, right? You can do it in public places and no one really has to know what's going on.
That's cool.
Yeah, so it's about kind of starting maybe with your feet. Do you want to try it together?
Sure.
Yeah, okay. So you would just start with your feet and like kind of starting around your toes and your ankle. Just think about like flexing any of the muscles that you have in your feet and then holding it and then releasing. And then you kind of want to move up your body. So now you're kind of thinking in your calves. You're flexing your calves, holding those muscles, holding, and then releasing. Then you would move up to like your quads and your hamstrings and kind of like slowly but surely work your way up your body until you've done all of your muscles, including your face. And then at the last ones, you're kind of wanting to do everything, and then you release, and it can have a really kind of relaxing effect. Does that seem like something that you think you would use in your day-to-day?
Yeah, I mean, I'll definitely try it. The breathing, I've sort of forgot about, so I might try that again as well. I didn't try it at the movies this week, so I know when we practiced it last time, it did feel really relaxing. I'm a little bit worried about like clenching my fists and my face and stuff in public, but I guess if it's dark in the movie theater, probably nobody will notice.
Yeah, and there's different ones that like you'll feel more comfortable with. What I'll do after our session is I'll email you some links to some really great meditations that have progressive muscle relaxation, because that can be a really helpful way to start, is being guided through the process. And with the deep breathing, like I do really encourage you as much as you can and as much as you're kind of willing and comfortable to just try and even like set aside like a minute a day to kind of practice that breathing. We talked about the box breathing, where you're 4 in, hold, 4 out, hold. do that maybe once or twice a day.
Okay.
And then it might become more natural when you are in those moments of feeling kind of like you're in crisis.
Okay.
Does that sound like something we could add to the homework?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah? Okay. So I'll just write that here. Okay, so breathing. What do you think is kind of like a realistic amount of time each day that you want to try and do that breathing for?
I could probably do it for like 5 minutes after dinner.
5 minutes? Okay.
Yeah.
So would you, and how many days do you think?
I could probably do that every day.
5 minutes every day?
Yeah.
Okay. Every day after dinner. What time do you typically eat dinner?
About 7 usually.
Okay, so should we say around 7:30?
Yeah.
Yeah? So sometimes people find for these kinds of homework assignments, I feel like I'm a teacher, for these kinds of, pieces of homework that they're taking with them, setting an alarm on their phone can be really helpful as a way to remember, it's like that time of day where I'm just going to do my breathing.
Yeah.
5 minutes is like a good amount of time. If you feel like it's too much, just try for 2 or 3.
Okay.
So that's kind of our behavioral homework for the day.
Okay.
We talked a little bit about balanced responses.
Yeah.
And so we wrote some down here.
Yeah.
Where do you think you would get the most use of seeing those, that you could kind of go over them like once or twice a day?
I feel like those would probably be better in the morning.
Okay.
Especially if I'm reminding myself like that I didn't get a lot of sleep or something. I think that would be a good way to start the day, just so that I understand what I'm kind of, how I am that day. So
okay. Yeah.
So if I become more anxious, then I've already thought about that I'm tired today.
Yeah.
So
I really like your thinking there for sure. So first thing in the morning, like, do you want to put it up on the wall? Do you want to have it in your wallet? Like,
I think
where?
Maybe in my bathroom.
In your bathroom? Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
So while I'm getting ready, I can read it.
Cool. Yeah, definitely. Awesome. So, what do you think from today is the most important thing that you want to remember taking away from this session?
Well, I think the balancing thought stuff was really helpful. And then the second thing would be to put myself in like somebody else's shoes, and like I was asking a friend. That made me think about it differently. So I think I'll do that again for sure. Definitely.
I think that's a really good one as well. Yeah. Especially because sometimes the messages we start giving ourselves in these situations can be kind of, they're not like the nicest messages sometimes, right? Mm-hmm. So again, if you kind of put that onto a friend, I don't think you'd be maybe calling your friend, like whatever.
Yeah, I wouldn't be telling them you're crazy or something.
Yeah, some of the messages that we give ourselves, right? So again, kind of flipping that around can be helpful. Okay. Yeah, so great. And so we said with the homework, we're going to try and do breathing. Did we want to write this down on the other side of your card maybe?
Sure.
Yeah. So the breathing was going to be 5 minutes every day after dinner at 7:30.
Okay.
And then the balance thinking, you're going to read your notes to yourself every morning in the bathroom. Okay, so we're pretty much at time. We have a couple minutes here. So I always like to kind of have some feedback about how the session went and hear what your thoughts are. If there's anything that didn't work for you, then I absolutely want to hear about it. If it's something you're not comfortable sharing, we have those forums at the front, so you could leave a message that way. Yeah. If something did work, then it's good to hear about too. So what are your thoughts kind of heading out from today's session?
Good. I feel I really enjoyed talking about, well, I don't know if I enjoyed it, but I thought it was really helpful to talk about the movie theater situation. Mm-hmm. So I think just understanding like reminding me about what we had talked about before was really helpful. And figuring out that what was actually going through my mind, that was really hard for me to do. So I appreciated that we went over that too. So I think that's pretty much most of the feedback I have.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it was really nice to see you, and I'll see you again in 2 weeks.
Sounds good.
Okay, fantastic. Have a nice day.
Okay.
Okay.